Good evening. I'm calling to order the Community Impact Fee Advisory Committee regular meeting today, September 13th at approximately 8:53 p.m. We do have a quorum present. We will start with public comments. Non-agenda item public comments. The white card comments will be taken from the audience on non-agenda related topics for a length of time not to exceed 3 minutes per person. Agenda item public comments, yellow card comments will be taken from the audience on non-agenda and agenda items combined for a length of time not to exceed 5 minutes total per person on all items except for public hearings. Comments on public hearing items must be made when the item comes before the board, commission, committee, and not to exceed 2 minutes per person. No action or discussion may be taken by the board, commission, committee during public comments on non-agenda items. To address the board, commission, or committee, please complete the white or yellow card and present it to the city staff designee prior to the meeting. We'll start with the consent agenda. All of the following items on the consent agenda are considered to be self-explanatory by the Community Impact Fee Advisory Committee and will be enacted with one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless requested by the chair or a committee member, in which event the item will be removed from the consent agenda and considered separately. So consent agenda item 1, consideration, discussion, and possible action to approve the minutes from the July 12th, 2023 Community Impact Fee Advisory Committee regular session.
I would like to note in the minute meeting that the present commissioner's roles is incorrect, where my name as the chair and Felix Paz as the vice chair should be read as Cassandra Hartman as the chairperson. Also would like to note that misspelling for Sonia Wallace City Council is misspelled, as well as on follow on referencing Vice Chair Paz is corrected.
I make a motion that we approve the minutes for what meeting was it? July's meeting with the new corrections.
I second.
Okay. A motion by Commissioner Paez, second by Lakeisha Small. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Consent agenda item number 2. Regular agenda item number 2. Consideration, discussion, and possible action on roadway impact fee calculations.
As you remember, the last time we met, we were working on discussions for the roadway impact fee calculations. And when I basically presented to y'all how we came up with the calculations, and this one basically took the proposed projects in the 3 service areas and actually defined what the roadway impact fees would be for each area. So as a recap, service unit is basically a vehicle mile, like for each service area. And in order to determine the cost per service unit, we estimate the growth, and it's the same growth 7% rate between 2023 and 2033 as we did for the water and wastewater impact fees. So that has not changed. And basically, then we got basically the calculations for what's currently developed and what's undeveloped. And then we basically took that and you break it into different categories, residential or non-residential. And then the non-residential is broken out into retail, service, and then basic. So retail would be land use activities that sell goods. So this would be like a grocery store or a restaurant. Services would be stuff like city hall, government, and professional offices, as well as like educational uses, like a new school or something. And basic would be kind of like your warehouse or typical thing where they produce goods, and they're either exported out of the city or they're used within the city. And that would be like stuff for manufacturing, construction, transportation, trade, warehousing, and other industrial uses. So we had previously talked about the transportation demand factor, and that's basically what the maximum trip length would be for each service area, and we calculated it. We discussed the calculations earlier, so I didn't want to rehash them. But when we did it for service area 1, the maximum trip length was 2. For service area 2, it was 3, and for service area 3, it was 4. And basically, we also did a reduction to just average trip length in each of the areas. And that's based on if you're driving to and from work, but you stop at the store, then we wouldn't include all of that in there because some of the stuff you're like overlapping. So this one's kind of hard to read. But this is the existing vehicle miles for each.
Question, I'm sorry.
Yes.
On the non-residential for retail, for services, it says, oh, never mind. I'm sorry. I thought it said it did not include government in the services.
Okay. That's okay. So the first step we did, we calculated the existing vehicle miles, and that was based on what is currently developed in each service area. So we broke it out between single family, multifamily, basic service, and retail, and we did it for each one, for either residential or non-residential, and then we broke it out even further to show the trips for non-residential, breaking that out as well. And so basically, how we got the vehicle miles for residential is multiplying the demand factor for either single family or multifamily by the number of dwelling units located in that service area. And so non-residential is calculated by using the estimated square footage of each non-residential use and multiplying it by the demand factor for that type of use per 1,000 square feet. And basically we took residential and non-residential and we combined them to get a total vehicle miles for each of the service areas. So currently, for the 10-year growth projections, we have that service area 1 will have an additional 15,787 vehicle miles. Service area 2 will have 12,312, and service area 3 will have 13,500. And that's basically just additional trips that will be on the road based on the growth factor. And so this is just how we came up with those numbers. It shows the calculation. It's got the demand, the trip rate, and we multiplied it by the number of units. We just went in there, and it's estimated based on pre-development meetings we've had for stuff that we know was coming in, and then we kind of estimated based on the comprehensive plan what approximate use would be and how many square foot would be for each of the service areas for any areas that aren't currently proposed to be developed but will be developed in the future. And that's how we came up with these. And so that's a recap. So the total miles added between 2023 and 2033 right now with the 7% estimated growth rate will be around 41,599. And that's all service areas combined. So as you recall, we split the city up into 3 service areas. So this is just showing you 1, 2, and 3. And then this one shows where all the subdivisions and developments are that we know about that have, are in process. We didn't include some of the ones that are still being worked out. Um, primarily, we used the ones that we had TIAs for because the TIAs is what we used to come up with the projects. And so this was a label of all the projects in each of the different service areas. And then there's some tables for each service area that explains what the roadway is, what the project is, how much of it is located in the service area. We delineated the service areas to where it's 100% for each street and each service area. It makes it easier to calculate. And we did an estimated cost and what TIA it was based on. And so for service area 1, the total cost of improvements is estimated at $2,070,000. So we did the same thing for service area 2. That one's a little bit higher, $3,675,000. It's just because there's more required road work in that service area. And service area 3 is 1.585 million. And like I said, this one is just limited to the area that we had chosen. And so we can adjust it as we go further along. You will see that it's not a major difference, but there is a difference in the impact fee based on the service area. So basically, we took the CIP projects and we divided that by the number of vehicle miles, and that's how we get the cost per service unit. And so we did that for each one. And so basically for service area 1, it was a little over 2 million. There's 15,787. So when you divide that, it's 131.12 per vehicle mile. Service area 2 is 298.49 per vehicle mile, and service area 3 is 117.41. Now this is just for projects based on TIAs that we have approved within the city. Later on, there is an agenda item, or I don't know if it's up, is it with this one, Scott? Where we're going to discuss adding in additional streets work based on the transportation master plan that was in the comprehensive plan. But right now, if it's just based on TIAs, this is what the cost would be. So basically, we would take that impact fee rate and multiply it by the number of service units for each proposed development, and that's how you would get what the developer has to pay. And so basically, this just shows the calculation and what we got for each area. And this one is based on tables where, okay, this is light industrial, it has X amount, and you can get the number that way. And so this is just, these sheets just show you various ones that you can use for calculations. And so basically, step 1, we determine the number of service units and then multiply by the vehicle miles, and we get what the development's vehicle miles are, and then we take that and do the fee per vehicle mile, and that gives you the impact fee that's due. So here's an example. Service area 1 has a cost of $131.12 per vehicle mile. So for a 500 unit development, it's 4.3 vehicle miles per unit. So you multiply the 500 times 4.3 and you get 2,150 vehicle miles. You take that and you multiply that by the cost per vehicle mile and you get $281,908. So in comparison, for like an office building, you do the same thing, except it has lower vehicle miles. So for the office building, it would only be $10,227.36, which is really how it should be, because single family developments will have more trips than an office building because they have more units. To compare for retail, you do the same calculation, but they have their own vehicle miles. And so for a 50,000 square foot retail center in service area 1, it would be $25,568.40 for their roadway impact fees. And I did the same thing for an industrial one, and there's just $49,825.60. So you can see it is less than the single family, but it's still an additional cost that developers will have to pay. And so I did the same calculations for service area 2. And as you can see, because that one is over double what service area 1 is, obviously it's a higher fee for everybody. And so, like I said, I did the same calculations for that. It increases because it's got a higher fee. Service area 3 was pretty close to service area 1 cost wise, so it didn't really change that much. But those costs only include stuff that's in TIAs, like widening existing roads and improving it. It did not include anything in the thoroughfare plan. We can add stuff for the thoroughfare plan, but just know that that's going to increase the impact fees. And the other thing that we probably want to discuss before we get too far along is if y'all are okay with like service area 2 being so much higher than service areas 1 and 3, or do we want to adjust it so they're like more like on the same level? So, because it seems like if you're in service area 2, you feel like you're getting penalized, because you have to put more money in. Like I said, ultimately that's up to you. We can do the calculations. I have rough estimates for Greg Maynor. We estimated to do what's proposed in the thoroughfare plan, it would be about $5 million. So we could add that into service area 1 as an additional thing, and that would increase the impact fee. And we can do that, but y'all need to decide as a committee how y'all want to proceed with that. Just because this will be an additional fee, and because they're already paying water and wastewater impact fees too. So I don't know if y'all have any questions or comments.
There's on the area map in section 1,
Mhm.
Parsons and Lexington are shown as city streets.
Well, in that area, Parsons is a city street till it gets to Lexington. And once it leaves Lexington and goes towards 973, down that way, that becomes county. So the section that we just redid with the paving program between the bridge and Lexington, that's city.
It's not TxDOT?
No, that part is city.
It shows it's county, but I could point it out. I don't know if Victor did these or just the line color.
Oh, is it showing him? I thought Victor updated that.
Yeah, no worries.
Okay, yeah, no. So portions of it, Parsons, and then Old Highway 20, but part of it is in the city. But after you reach Lexington, then it's not city anymore. It's county. So I'll make sure that gets updated.
Is the 10-year 7%? Is that a rolling number?
We based it on current growth rates. We got some numbers from Scott Dunlop, and basically we came up with calculations. It was a little bit higher to be conservative. We went with the 7%. I believe that was before your time. And so basically we had already discussed it and we went over, we had different options. One went up to 11, but we decided to be a little bit more conservative and go back down to 7%. And so that's what we're doing as we did for the water and wastewater impact fees. We're working on water and wastewater master plans, and we're being consistent in using that 7% growth. We don't want to be, we don't want to be not aggressive enough, because we looked at 3% and that was too low. 7% was more based on, we used actual numbers for like water meters and stuff that come into the city, and we got an average, and it averaged out to around 7%.
And do we have ideas of how we could go about, like you were mentioning, the various service areas, kind of making them a little more even?
we would just have to adjust their boundaries. We are limited to the 6 service miles. We can do it. It just so happened that the way we set it up with section 2, it just happened to be the area that needed the most improvements based on TIAs that we had received. So we would have to basically go through and adjust that service area, like move some of it into service area 1 and some into service area 3, and kind of like make it that way. So hopefully try to make it a little bit more even. But the next agenda item does have comparisons for other cities. We did look at what other cities are doing for their roadway impact fees too. So that could be also used as some help. But what we could do is, depending on how you want to go, if we want to add the additional streets shown on the thoroughfare plan, we can come up with an estimate, and that will affect the cost, obviously, because you're talking about major like widening improvements. But we have to be careful because we don't know when some of this stuff will be implemented, and there is a time limit to use the impact fee funds for roadways. And if you don't use it within that set time frame, then you have to pay it back. So, which, yeah, that's state law. So.
Yeah, we should include the thoroughfare, or at least see what that looks like in terms of what it does to the costs in the service areas. Because as you mentioned, like Greg Maynard was going to be in service area 1. So that might bring it more equal to what service area 2 is.
Yeah, because Greg Maynard, just that one project is around $5 million.
Yeah. But because of the way our city limits are a little circuitous and pokey, and we did ask the city council if they wanted us to annex some county roads that they could be included in this, like Tower and Old 20 and Bodark, to have, more complete streets that we could improve on, but they said no.
Yeah.
So they said, I think that the streets from our thoroughfare plan should be included, or at least we can evaluate what that does to the costs. But I don't know, it's going to, other than Greg Maynard, really shift things significantly, because you're going to get like a little section of Bodark and like a tiny section of Tower and, none of Old 20. And, adding these thoroughfare plan streets, I don't think is going to add tens of millions of dollars into the calculations.
Yeah,
I think it's a worthwhile exercise to see.
We would just add the streets from the thoroughfare plan that would be the city's responsibility, because it does show some stuff, I think, that are county roads technically right now.
Yeah, it's all encompassing of county roads, TxDOT, our roads for the network, but only little sections here and there like go from the county into the city, back into the county, and we can only include that little section that goes through the city limits.
So it would be the same like Bodark. It goes county, city, county, and so I mean and we've got a cost in there for doing it, but why repair just that one section? So we tried to work with the county. It hasn't worked out yet because I do know I believe the county is working on Bodark right now. That's what somebody said. I don't know who it was. So, if not, there is a plan, but they didn't reach out to us because it would have been more feasible to work together and the city just pay for the city section of it, but that hasn't happened.
Yeah.
So,
There's a question for y'all would be too, seeing what the costs are right now and knowing adding the thoroughfare plan is only going to increase it to some amount. Like, are you okay? I mean, I think, like I said, it may be a worthwhile exercise to see what those costs would be, but I mean, do any of you feel strongly that it's already too high and maybe we should move different directions?
And I'm trying to recall if this was the agenda item where Barth had the concerns with the businesses coming in. Was this?
yes, Barth
Okay.
had an issue with the numbers for like how much additional commercial would have to pay on top of their water and wastewater impact fees. So yeah, he had a very strong opinion about that.
That one had the fee was not calculated correctly though.
Yeah, so
Like, it
that
ended
one
up
was
being like
that was a
$1
little
million
off. I
on
mean,
it.
to me, the numbers that we're getting now are a lot more reasonable. He's not here, so we don't have his opinion.
Okay. So I think between, of course, Barth's opinion comparing towards other cities, like we were comparing, adding the thoroughfare, and then like you stated too, some of these other projects aren't even included yet.
Correct.
Right?
Yes, for like Service Area 1, there are proposed improvements for Blake Manor that are not included. And that one is close to a $5 million project as well, because that one includes widening it to 3 lanes, where the city picks up from the county and goes to Lexington, which would involve enclosing some of the ditches and moving some of the existing electrical underground. So, and that's what we have to look at for these larger widening projects. You're going to have to get right of way possibly. There's utilities and stuff that have to be relocated. And so that's why adding those in will definitely increase the cost of the project.
And in preparation of making these improvements and things, TxDOT, like you said, some of these are city county. Can we collaborate with those people up front? Like we're anticipating getting this started. Like, hey, just so it can be kind of like a seamless project where they can pick up what they can do. I mean, I can only be
Yeah.
hopeful, but
Yeah. We have tried. We have been in several meetings with Travis County, and the mayor's been involved in stuff. And like I said, they started on Blake Manor, expanding it to 5 lanes in their portion of it, and didn't even let us know that they were doing that. So, but we can try, right, Scott? We can try to reach out to the county again. We've done it numerous times.
We have monthly meetings with them now, two of the county planners, but they work sort of in the transportation realm within the county. So we're better at collaborating and sort of helping or letting each other know about what we're doing or our plans to do things. So hopefully going forward, if they are doing that, I don't think they're widening, but maybe they're
No, I think
paving.
they're just repaving it. They're not widening
Yeah.
it.
That's the type of thing that we would want to collaborate on. If they were planning to widen it, that would be a good
Yeah,
opportunity for us to do it.
Because really the city section, it doesn't need to be just widened. It needs to be totally redone. And we're talking like a full depth repair, like we've done in other places around the city where you dig down to the subgrade and put 12 inches of base and then pave over it. But that's not typically how Travis County fixes their roads. So they like just to pave over what's there. So
okay. And then lastly, once you start a project, like you were saying, we have a certain amount of time to use the funds. So if it's already initiated, then that goes towards like this has been started. It doesn't, or when does the clock start basically?
I believe it starts as soon as the impact fee is paid. So, and like I said, roadway is different than water and wastewater because those fees, that's not a set service area. And, those, don't expire, those monies. It's different. Like I said, that's probably a question for the city attorney possibly as to, how long, do we have to use those funds? But I think as long as we get started, I think we should be okay. But that's probably something we need to verify with city legal.
Yeah, part of the process, should we make a recommendation and council move forward with it, would be like enabling ordinances, which would have probably the parameters for how we collect the money and how we spend the money. Because right now our code doesn't even talk about roadway impact fees. We have a section in our code for impact fees for water and wastewater. And we would have to amend that section to include our collection of roadway impact fees. And in that, it could include the provisions on, compliant with state law, whether it has to be fully expended before 10 years or a project begun within 10 years. So.
Whichever verbiage allows as much flexibility as possible, it sounds like.
Yeah, that would be the goal. But like I said, I'm not a lawyer, so Scott's not a lawyer. We don't need to be. Yeah. So anything like that, once we have an idea of what it's going to be, we'll present it to council. And then if they're like, okay, we need to go ahead and initiate the roadway impact fees, then we would work with city legal to come up with the ordinance amendment to add the roadway impact fees. So like when we do the water and wastewater impact fees right now, we just amend the existing ordinance that's there. And it just goes in as an update and basically, and it'll be the same thing where, if you plat after so the set date, then you have these fees. And if it's before, then you have the old fees. So like if something gets platted right now, they wouldn't have to pay roadway impact fees because we don't have one set yet. It's all based on when that it gets approved by council.
So for this agenda item, do we push it while we wait for further numbers, a thoroughfare and such, or what do we do, Scott?
Yeah, it was just discussion and direction. So I believe, yeah, we want to see what happens to the service units with
Yeah,
the amounts with the thoroughfares added.
Yeah, what we could do, we can go ahead and add thoroughfare stuff to what we've got right now, see how it affects it, and then we could do it to where if we adjust the service areas to make it more evenly, we can take a look at that as well for the next time. That way you have a better idea as to how much it's going to cost. But it will, like I said, it will increase. And since service area 2 is already a lot higher than the rest, we probably do need to adjust it to, make it a little bit more even. But on the next agenda item, we will see that some cities have a wide variety of their impact fees for roadways. So, but yeah, no, we can take a look at that for next time. So I don't know if they need to do a motion or.
No, you have
Okay.
the directions. So it's fine. Yeah, no action, just
Okay.
direction.
Okay. So no action taken for agenda item number 2. We will revisit this agenda on the next scheduled meeting.
Yes.
So moving to regular agenda item number 3, consideration, discussion, and possible action on roadway impact fees.
All right. So this one just shows you what the impact fees are for cities in the area. If you look, Austin has 18 different ones. So what we did was we went through and we're like, okay, well, their highest for one service area is 5,742. Their lowest is 1,472. Bastrop is currently working on. Bartlett doesn't. Belton felt like they didn't think it was appropriate because it would discourage development. Buda, Elgin, Florence, they don't have any. Georgetown, their high is 4,577. Their low is 1,247. And if you go through Harker Heights, Holland, Gerald, Kyle, Liberty Hill, there's nothing at this time. If you look at Leander, their high is 2,179 and their low is 287. Maynard doesn't have anything yet. Pflugerville, they have a high of 3,156 and a low of 1,590. Round Rock, there's increases over the next 3 years. And basically, they just have a set fee amount for $1,130 per residential and $620 per non-residential. Salado doesn't have anything. Taylor just has theirs as a max set at $480.32. Temple and Troy don't have anything at this time. And Waco bases theirs on what service area and what land use it is. So as you can see, it's a wide variety. It's not as closely matched as the water and wastewater fees. Roadway impact fees are new to most cities at this point. But I can tell you that Leander started out with much higher fees and they did not get very good feedback from developers. And so they did adjust theirs. So that's why it is a little bit lower. And they had a wide variety where their lowest was 287 for one area, and then the highest was closer to 8,000. So that's a pretty big discrepancy. So this one is just kind of showing y'all what's out there right now. As you can see, a majority of cities around here, nobody's got roadway impact fees. That doesn't mean they don't need them. It's just they decided at this time that's not something they want to proceed with.
And could that be too, I know with our situation, we have, like you were saying, some parts of the road is city owned, then it jumps to county. Are other areas experiencing that also, and maybe why they don't have that?
Yes, in some areas like Kyle, majority of their roads are like, you know, they've got I-35 and stuff, and so does Buda. And so, you know, cities are limited to city roads. And so a lot of the faster growing cities are having the same issue because, you know, they own a limited number of roads in the city and they have like county or TxDOT roads that cut through the city. So you're limited in what you can use the city funds for and what streets you can improve because of that. So, but that's just the way it's written in the law.
If you were to put ours as we're not necessarily proposing, but have looked at so far, what would be our high and our low?
The high would be 298 and the low is 113.
So this list is their vehicle mile rate.
Yes. So basically, for these, when it says high, that's like we went through and like Austin had 18 different ones. Well, that 5,742 was the highest in any of the service areas in Austin per vehicle mile.
So we'd be significantly lower than
Yes.
even our highest is like lower than
Yeah.
Leander's
Yeah.
low.
Yeah. Except for Leander, they're low. But like I said, you know, that's just one area. Leander had, I think, 14 or 15 areas. So, yeah. But I think it would benefit the city more if we could try to get them as close to each other as possible, because you know, there's always the concern that if one area is a lot higher, then that'll slow down. And so basically, each year they have it because what they were trying to do is not have it like the maximum amount all at once. So they decided we're going to do like a tiered thing where so one year be that, then they'll increase it by, and I can't remember like a set percentage rate or amount, and then the next year it would increase again, and that way they're, you know, not doing it all at once. And so yeah, I mean basically that's what they decided to do.
And then did you just happen to look at any historical data from Round Rock on how long that they have started doing this? Like, is this year one, year two, or year three?
No, Round Rock's done it for a little bit longer. I can look and I can find out when each one of these cities had looked at it. But I know Austin and Round Rock have had it longer than anybody else. Leanders was just enacted in 2021, I believe. Like I said, these are pretty new to most cities. Yeah, I can find out which ones have like when they were implemented, because some of these are based on updates that they've done. Because I know I can't remember. I was looking at one of them earlier, and we have in Pflugerville, and they went back and they had updated theirs, but they left everything the same as when they originally did it. And so basically, it would be like the water and wastewater impact fee where we go back. I don't know if roadways we have to do as often as we do water and wastewater. We may have to. And so we would go back and look at it and see, okay, well, you know, it's not growing as fast. We want to adjust it. And we can always adjust it.
Okay. And when you also look back at the Round Rock, if you could see about the increase, if it's a percentage or a max amount, and then if so, what is that max amount will be?
Okay.
And where would citizens like see this cost breakdown? Like, how is this distributed? Like, how are where will people see this at?
It's in the Code of Ordinances. It gets published online. This won't affect residents at all because this is just for new development. So it's just like water and wastewater, those impact fees, that does not affect existing citizens. This is for new development coming into the city. And it's it'll be covered. The cost will be covered by the developer, so it won't affect anybody that lives here right now. And so usually what they'll do when they build a house and sell it, they include that in the cost of the house when you buy your house. But it won't affect anybody that already lives here. It's just for new development.
And with that cost associated per vehicle mile, is that for the area that the developer or for the city limits
That is for the vehicle miles that are located in each service area.
in the service area? And the service area was from the previous agenda item we discussed. Right?
Yes. Well, like I said, what I'll do is I'll add the thoroughfare to the existing one, and I'll show you what the cost is, and then we can tweak the service area lines to see if we can get it more closely where, one of them, maybe they're all closer to like $200 each or something. So one of them's not twice as much as the other ones.
And I do appreciate you taking the time to do this for us and sharing the comparable
Oh,
around the different
oh,
cities.
yeah.
So this is very helpful to see how low we are.
Yeah, and I think, when we did the water and wastewater, Manor was lower than some cities for that as well. So, but that's why it's important to go through these steps and to see what other cities are doing, so we can kind of figure out, okay, but we're also limited to, stuff that's within the city limits and whatnot. So, but yeah, no, it is good, and that's why we do the comparison so y'all can get an idea of how other cities are doing it.
Did you say that our low was 117? Is that the number I'm looking at?
One of them's 113 and change, one's 117, and the other one's 298.
Okay, so it is considerably lower than the other cities.
Yes. But then also those other cities are a lot larger and have like 18 service areas. So I don't think we want to get that complicated with Manor and have that many service areas.
Well, I was seeing Taylor is like $400 and something,
Yeah.
but just a straight 450.
Yeah.
Whatever.
And I would have to look more into how they came about doing that. And it may be, I wouldn't think Taylor would be small enough just to have one service area. So I can look into that and see how they came up with that. It was just when I went to look for it, that's what their website said. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. So yeah, I can look more into that one and just see how they came up with that. But theirs was pretty old, and I don't know if they're updating it now, but I think they should, because I want to say theirs was from like 2018.
Are there any other questions? Do I have a motion to close agenda item number 3?
I make a motion to close agenda item number 3.
I'll second.
I have a motion to close agenda item 3 by Commissioner Paez, second by Commissioner Meyer. All in favor? Opposed? Ayes have it. And lastly, do I have a motion to adjourn tonight's SIF meeting?
Move to adjourn.
I second it.
I have a motion to adjourn the SIF meeting by Commissioner Chavez. Chavis by Commissioner Chavis. Second by Commissioner Paez. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. And the SIF meeting is adjourned at approximately or at 9:37 p.m.